and hand it over to you, Simon.
Danke. Hallo, mein Name is Simon. That is the limitation to my German, unfortunately. So we appreciate being able to present to you in English, and thank you very much. What I'd like to introduce to you today and the agenda that we'll run through is to take you through our findings from a consumer study that we ran last year, to talk about their expectations when it comes to e-commerce and delivery and the logistics behind e-commerce, and talk about how you can grow through your e-commerce operations, grow revenue, but do it in a cost-effective way. And finally, we'll then introduce to you 7bridges and what we do for our customers with a particular focus in the e-commerce world. So before we launch into the webinar, I'll introduce myself and then pass over to my colleague Corey, who's also on the call. So as a brief introduction, I have over 10 years experience across sales and operations, previously working in a leading medtech company called Abbott, and before joining 7bridges, working in a strategy consultancy company called Carney. Now at 7bridges, I'm responsible for our growth, which basically boils down to introducing new companies to our transformational approach to logistics, understanding their needs, and also identifying where we can add immediate value. In Corey, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Corey Haley, and I've spent most of my career building global enterprise relationships for companies like BlackBerry and Qualcomm and a handful of startups. Now at 7bridges, I focus my attention on introducing our amazing supply chain platform to future enterprise customers. And my sales and go-to-market background really covers off national and international retail, distribution channels, and original OEM partnerships, the likes of Sony, Xiaomi, LG, and many others. And I'm looking forward to getting to know many of the businesses on the call today and hope you find what we've got to share interesting. So in the first section of today's webinar, we really want to share with everyone some insights about customer expectations that have been taken from both national statistics, but also our very own commissioned YouGov study here in the UK that covered both consumer and business insights about their recent e-com experiences. Some of the detail you won't find overly surprising, but the role that supply chain plays in logistics and transport in consumer purchasing decisions really might be surprising for some of you. From there, we're going to hear from Simon about some of the ways that 7bridges has aided our customers to truly excel in responding to the opportunities and the pressures that have emerged in this space. E-com overall as a purchase channel is most definitely growing. This past 18 months has seen a dramatic rise to nearly 30% of overall sales as a direct effect from the COVID-19 pandemic. And while this stat is based on UK purchase data, the growth can really be seen in all geographies globally. With growth in channel preference comes some pain. At the start of the pandemic, this shift was hugely problematic to many businesses, whether or not they even had an omni-channel experience. Many businesses spent resources quickly spinning up online storefronts for the first time, and others really struggling to be able to fulfill orders. Perhaps some of the folks on the call today have experienced some challenges associated with this growth. But let's take a look at what the impact was on UK businesses during this time frame. So while online growth is certainly something to be celebrated, the reality is organizations, by and large, really failed to meet customer demand. Some of this was as a result of workplace sickness, and some certainly due to supplier failures. But a key source of that struggle was held actually within their own logistics operation. Organizations that were incapable of dealing with the shock of increased demand suffered some staggering blows, noting out of stocks, some warehouse closures, and clearly delivery failures. I'm wondering how our assembled audience fared during the pandemic, and if they saw any significant changes to their online environment. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that with some of you later on. So even as we appear to be recovering from the depths of the pandemic and returning to what some may coin the new normal, Online retail is going to continue to remain the dominant shopping channel for consumers. I don't think this is a surprise for the audience today. A piece of research we conducted with YouGov, consumers told us they'll do 94% of their shopping, excluding groceries, online in a post-COVID world. Those who had traditionally shopped in physical retail stores found that they were forced into the world of online purchasing. My dad is one of those characters who continuously complains about the fact that he has to go online to buy things these days. And guidance suggests that those behaviors will certainly continue well into the future. But this is good news for retailers. People who spend online spend an incredible average of 168% more during that shopping experience. For those companies who've really invested in their e-com platform and have truly invested in their logistics capabilities to support those channels, they'll see the impact of larger basket sizes, repeat order behavior, just sheerly out of convenience, in response to marketing and promotional campaigns in an online environment, exclusive of tailored offers and impulse purchasing. So how can you capitalize on the opportunities presented by online shopping trends and capture the interest in repeat business of higher spending shoppers? If you want to achieve great results, you need to meet your customers' demands. The key factor we discovered in our research with YouGov is that retailers with the best delivery and the best and most convenient returns experience capture the highest spenders of all. In fact, for wealthy, older millennials, the spend is a whopping 340% higher for brands with superior delivery and returns. And when we surveyed our consumers, when we surveyed consumers, they think a high quality delivery experience has the likes of Amazon to be continuing to be that benchmark, which I don't think is a surprise. Now, it's all well and good to say that exceptional delivery and returns helps to attract higher spending shoppers. But what do these experiences even entail? In our responses, people chose companies who promote free standard delivery matched with a free and convenient returns process. And while nominated delivery day will continue to be an important piece, during the pandemic, that dropped slightly based on the fact that a mass number of people were home and clearly not missing deliveries. The analysis suggests that the most important thing you can offer your consumers is zero charge for a standard 3 to 5 business day shipping option. Perhaps one or two of you already offer free standard shipping. If you do, that's great, but it's certainly not the norm. And we're going to talk more about the hows of an exceptional delivery and returns model in just a moment, but it's worth mentioning, as well as a key other emerging trend, and that's a desire to purchase from brands offering more sustainable packaging and delivery options. This is particularly important to those wealthy millennials. So if they're your target buyer, it's time to really start thinking about your eco-credentials. But in the interest of time, we're going to move on from customer expectations. But if you're interested, we do have a report that we can make available to each of you if you just reach out, and that's called the Retail Logistics Guide for 2021. A final comment before we move on to the how part of this webinar with Simon. We've reiterated several times already that exceptional delivery and returns can increase your profits, but you don't have to just take our word for it. This graph clearly shows how logistics-focused retailers significantly outperform their rivals in omnichannel retail. You can see how the likes of ASOS, Farfetch, Zalando are experiencing 300% growth at the same period that others in their category just saw 150%. And I know there's a number of folks on the call today that are selling through an environment like Zalando. So you may have a bit of a sense about how that might be impacting your business overall as well. So next, Simon's going to talk about the how. How do you use logistics as a growth driver in e-commerce? Simon?
Thanks, Corey. So based on what we're hearing from our clients, their priorities tend to fall into 4 key areas, which I'll dive into during the section. But just really to signpost them here, they consist of 1, providing choice and convenience to customers for how to receive orders. 2, managing delivery performance of carriers such that customers receive goods on time and in full. 3, offering affordable shipping to customers. And 4, ensuring that their whole shipping experience, both delivery and returns, is simple. So let's talk about how your organization may be able to pull on these growth levers. So under 1, offering unparalleled levels of choice. Amazon, as Corey mentioned, was the retailer most cited by customers for offering this exceptional level of choice, both in the products they offer and the delivery options they give. Now, it's unlikely you're going to have even half as many SKUs as Amazon, but there are still lessons that can be learned. So, for example, consumers expect product choice, and if this isn't provided, they will go to another retailer that provides this choice. They also wanted choice in terms of how to receive and choose between products. For example, deliver to home or deliver to a store such that they can try on in person. Another finding was that endless aisle represents a fast way to increase your product offering, both online and in store. It's a fulfillment model that connects both your physical shops with your online products. So shoppers can order items that you don't stock in and order them into store such that they can be delivered to their home address or store, as I said, to try on in person. Drop shipping is a logistics strategy that is often deployed to enable an endless aisle, with the advantage being that you don't have to hold on to the inventory and therefore tie up cash. Drop shipping also has advantages that orders that are fulfilled directly from a third-party supplier can save you the cost of having to deliver from your warehouse. So you're saving money on not having to store the product and handle that product too. In fact, this was the case for one of our customers, where we found that there was a significant 50% saving to be had through drop shipping orders from China to America versus freighting in bulk, where an additional contributing factor to these savings was not having to pay duty on individually imported products. And of course, consumers expect multiple shipping options. Cheap standard shipping may suit some, but for others, it's simply not fast enough, particularly in fashion and beauty, but increasingly for other industries as well, such as homeware and DIY. Our consumer research confirms that you must offer expedited delivery options where possible, and ideally the flexibility of having a nominated day. So on screen, you'll see what consumers have told us from a UK audience, but this translates across Europe and worldwide as well. And you can see what they think is a reasonable price for the different delivery options. Now, you may be looking at this and thinking there is absolutely no way I can offer next day delivery for just £2.36 or close to €3. Well, there is a way to offer next day delivery and recover at least 75% of those charges if you optimize your logistics operation, for example, with smart technology and dynamic carrier selection. But I'll talk through that more a bit later. Before we move on to the next point, it's also worth mentioning that faster delivery times don't necessarily equate to holding more stock in your warehouse. If you have a large network of physical stores, one way to decrease shipping time and cost is to enable a ship from store model. It's actually something we did with one of our customers, a luxury £300 million revenue fashion retailer, who some of you may recognize the name of, Philip Plein. So Philip Plein sells products globally, but before 7bridges only really fulfilled orders from 2 main warehouses, Germany and the US. At the height of the pandemic, we helped to turn their stores into mini warehouses through our intuitive platform user interfaces, onboarding stores at a rate of 10 per week. This allowed them to continue to fulfill orders and utilize their stores, even through the disruption that ensued. So just to take you through what this looks like in real terms, before an order even comes in, 7bridges AI is working in real time to distribute the stock around Plein's fulfillment network based on all the changing demand. This ensures fast-moving product is located near to expected demand, and in sufficient quantities that can ensure stock out situations and therefore missed revenue are minimized. So when an order comes in, the 7bridges platform decides which site to ship from out of the multiple locations that has that item in stock. Our artificial intelligence makes this choice based on the total cost of fulfilling the order. So considering the storage, handling, transportation, duties and replenishment costs, and doing this from each possible location, balanced against the cost of fulfilling predicted demand from this item at each location. i.e., the decision just isn't made on where it's cheapest to fulfill from. It's done in the context of all the other current and potential future orders. So once the platform has selected the fulfillment location, it notifies the store staff, so similar to Farfetch's Storm system. The 7bridges UI then makes it very simple to pack and dispatch an order, suggesting what packaging to use, how to pack it, and automatically generating all the necessary paperwork like commercial invoices and labels, and then automatically selecting the best carrier and the appropriate service. It's all completed in just a few clicks or barcode scans, so even the newest store staff can quickly use the system without having to worry about how to complete the export paperwork or with which courier to book with. And the results have been excellent for Philip Line's customers, who can get their desired items much quicker. And for Philip Line, the ship from store system has saved them 35% on costs for each site, and they're generating 8 times ROI in 1 month alone. So moving on to the second lever, which is improved logistics performance. The first place to start in improving your logistics performance is to really know where you currently stand. We strongly recommend doing a thorough analysis of your existing providers so that you can understand how each carrier performs across the different areas, such as a lane or delivery type. It's important that this is done historically and in a way that enables you to compare providers on a like-for-like basis so that you can actually identify trends in cost and performance. Once you have these insights, it's time to consider a multi-carrier logistics strategy. Now, I know that using a single 3PL for your logistics might seem beneficial. You have one point of contact, a single set of SLAs to monitor, and you might think it's saving you money. However, we've proven time and time again that a multi-provider logistics strategy can significantly improve performance whilst offering greater resilience to shock in the supply and demand, with the added bonus of saving you money. Here's a real example of why multi-carrier logistics are important. At the start of 2021, businesses using DPD suffered delayed shipments as the provider was bogged down by all the manual paperwork and incompleted data after Brexit. So DPD therefore had to stop their road service, which, as you can imagine, was hugely disruptive for businesses that were then unable to switch to an alternative shipping provider. And maybe you people on the call now were also impacted by this yourselves. 7bridges customers, however, benefited from the platform dynamically reacting to the disruption, with our AI routing shipments to providers that weren't impacted in order to preserve the delivery KPIs that were set. So as the AI scans across all of our customers, it ensures that your shipments are always being routed by the best carrier that offers the best value and the best performance in the best balance, without you actually needing to send a shipment to realize that it's a disrupted service. In the third section, in the third lever, we look at how you can make delivery options affordable. And we mentioned before that it's possible to make next day deliveries for £2.30 or around €3. So a multi-carrier strategy paired with automated carrier selection is the way to achieve this. If you suggested slashing delivery costs for your customers and perhaps even offering free shipment for standard delivery, you may just be laughed out of the room by your CFO, but at least if they're anything like the CFOs that I've worked for. This is unless you can show them how to make it work financially. And other than giving your you a hard time about costs, CFOs love data-driven business cases. We've done a lot of analysis on logistics procurement and carrier performance. And here's just one example. Using real data from 12 major providers, we simulated the price difference in delivering 100,000 shipments, so a mix of 1 to 50 kilogram packages, to 15 countries to see what multi-carrier savings could be achieved. One provider, the Baseline, cost £4.5 million to service these shipments. Adding an additional provider generated a 13.5% saving, so costing 3.9 million in total. Adding a third provider gave a 20% cost saving, and adding more pushed it over 30%. This is because, just like any business, different carriers have different strengths. This could be related to the vehicles they use or the infrastructure they have built up in different geographies. You'll get the best prices by matching the shipment profiles that you need to send to the providers that are strongest in those profiles for those particular shipments. And one of our latest customers just ran a 2-week proof of concept using the 7bridges platform to analyze their operations in a post-Brexit world. By taking the previous 12 months of orders and carrier contracts available to the group from different locations, we built a digital twin and had our AI, which we call Leo, calculate the cost of and performance of dispatching last year's orders with different carriers. This took into account the full cost of transportation, i.e. including all the associated surcharges, such that the comparison was done on a like-for-like basis. And the multiple accounts that existed per provider across the different operating countries were also taken into consideration. Leo was able to identify an opportunity to save 50% on cost by implementing a multi-carrier logistics strategy. This was simply because the rate cards are expensive when shipping to and from a country that isn't where you open your account. And this is called third country shipments. By using a rate card that existed in one of the third-party countries and using the global rate cards that existed in the organization and local rate cards in an optimum way, the savings were very significant. Leo also flagged the opportunity to reduce fees further through invoice auditing, as 8% of shipments arrive outside of the contracted delivery KPIs. Now, we're currently rolling out our platform to do 3 things. 1, optimize these decisions in real time. 2, support Clinigen with Leo-driven procurement and to further reduce transportation costs. And 3, automatically audit invoices to better control the supplier performance. How do you make returns simple? The 4th lever. Our survey indicated that 80% of shoppers are influenced by a simple returns process in their buying decision. Once again, retailers like Amazon and ASOS have set the bar for others by offering a free and simple return. Nowadays, it's normal behavior for consumers to purchase with the intent to return. And this is painful, but it's a fact, and we have to learn to work with it. The data shows that it actually pays to handle returns well. Zappos, for example, famously touted their free and extended returns policy as their major profit driver. And in fact, their top customers in terms of retention and lifetime value have the highest returns rate, almost half of everything they buy. A study in the Journal of Marketing also showed that when retailers adopt free returns, they increase purchases by over 350%. So a few questions for you to think about following this webinar. Do you offer an optimal returns experience to customers? Do you offer a simple electronic and free returns process with multiple options for your consumers to choose from? And can your customers automatically create a label at the click of a button without needing to contact your customer services? You can also put intelligence into your returns process, which is what we did for Thread. They quickly realized that a simple solution of putting a prepaid label in a box based on the weight of the original order was actually costing them more than required for the return shipment, as not all items are being sent back. In addition, each order was being returned separately at a significant cost. They implemented our white label returns module, which provided an instant solution without them having to develop one themselves. It enabled their US customers to generate a label themselves. And this label was used at the most cost-effective provider from the carriers that 7bridges had existing integrations into, and also routed the returns to a consolidation hub in the US, such that returns going across the Atlantic came in bulk rather than individually. So returns now cost 25% of what they did originally, which is a massive saving for Thread. And this is an example of how the original fulfillment location may not also be the best return destination. Another use case of this is where a different location, for example, a store, may need the returning item in stock. By applying AI intelligence, you can save yourself a transportation leg by just routing that item directly to the location that needs it. If you're asking your customer to manually complete paperwork, then you're also missing out on important return data that could help you proactively identify and address issues. So for example, a trend in damaged items coming from one particular warehouse. Finally, consumers don't want to wait 2 weeks to receive a refund. They want instant gratification once they've dropped their product off or had it collected from their home. Having the right integrations with carriers to flag when this product has been handed over will enable you to drive this workflow. So just to recap then, we've covered 4 key logistics levers for e-commerce growth. 1, offering greater consumer choice. 2, improve logistics performance and manage your providers to this. 3, align prices to consumer expectations. Don't be seen to be charging too much. And 4, simplify and optimize your returns. We've also touched on how you can pull on these levers and save 30% on logistics costs by embracing technology in procurement, routing of shipments and dynamic carrier selection, and implementing new fulfillment strategies such as multi-carrier shipping and drop shipping or ship from store. And this is just a start. You can save even more money by using AI to dynamically balance and place your inventory such that it's closer to your customer in the face of constantly changing demand, whilst also informing things like how you package your items and configure your pallets. But now these are the big winners. But many companies think that these capabilities are out of their reach. These capabilities represent the backbone to Amazon's logistics operations. But to get there, Amazon have made huge investments into their teams, technology, infrastructure to create that competitive barrier. However, with logistics providers generating and sharing more data and the improvements in computational power, it's now possible to jump this gap in time and investment. And so in the next section, we'll explain how 7bridges is making this possible through our software as a service platform. Corey, could you share a little more about 7bridges, please?
Cheers, thanks, Simon. So 7bridges is a next generation logistics platform that is powered by AI technology, or LEO, which Simon introduced you to briefly. We unify data, operations, and access, and it gives you access to a global ecosystem. And this brings world-class logistics to any company. As you can see from the examples provided today, we're able to offer total visibility and control over logistics costs, operations, and performance. We believe in 3 key pillars. 1, that logistics should be solved as a single category. It's no use optimizing for a single part of the process, as costs or performance will likely blow up elsewhere. 2, that technology should be leveraged for more comprehensive decision-making. It's simply impossible for humans to compute, given the sheer volume of data and choices available. 3, unified data is crucial for making informed decisions. You need data that's centralized and harmonized to make good overall decisions that align to your business goals and objectives. So let's talk a little bit about how 7bridges works. When I joined the team, it helped me to think about our platform in really the following way. We help businesses access world-class logistics capabilities by unifying their fragmented data sets and operations into a single intuitive platform. And I think of the platform in really 3 layers. However, they seamlessly work together. The first layer is a set of user interfaces, or APIs, to solve across the entire logistics category. These are how you and your organization work with and communicate to the platform. These simple to use automated interfaces allow your team to perform various logistics tasks, from packing to reporting and parcel tracking. The second layer is the heart of 7bridges. It's like the brain of the platform. The AI and machine learning technology, which we have personified as Leo, it exists to help you make better logistics decisions. Using your existing infrastructure and the data that's available, it assesses the best possible logistics choices from stock allocation to dispatch, and it ensures that you're making the right decisions on each and every order. This all works so efficiently because of our final layer of the platform. The final layer represents the unification of suppliers and associated data across all suppliers within the ecosystem. So both you and Leo have all the data to make optimized decisions. This last layer allows you to monitor the cost and performance while providing flexibility to rapidly change providers when performance slips or prices rise, or there's a shock to your operating environment, like the previously mentioned in the case of DPD trying to deal with Brexit. I'll let Simon provide a little bit more color to each of these layers. Note that this is really just a summary, so if you have any specific questions, please do put them in the chat or feel free to ask us in the end.
So I'll look into each of those layers in a bit more detail. Firstly, the platform not only provides a single place for logistics data, we also have a number of modules that enable the end-to-end logistics operations to be executed from the same system, thereby avoiding the need to stitch together multiple applications. In addition, there are a number of automation processes that sit behind these modules, resulting in a simplified, efficient, and streamlined approach to your logistics. It's not mandatory to adopt these though. If you have your own UIs or user interfaces, then we can enhance them by providing the same data that powers ours through APIs. So each module we have has been specifically designed to solve a particular logistics use case and is generally positioned with a particular user in mind. So for example, sell, monitor, and return are white label solutions that improve your customers' delivery experience by exposing a wider choice of convenient delivery methods during the checkout experience, providing the ability for your customer to find out where their package is through a consistent interface, and enabling your customer to easily return their unwanted items. Send and Operate provides simple interfaces to efficiently pack and quickly dispatch orders, the mechanism of which we described earlier in the blind use case. Audit, Report, and Procure allow supply chain, logistics, or finance managers to monitor and control and reduce cost. And in fact, these are the modules that we tend to implement first with customers, as it provides quick value. So usually 10% savings through automated auditing and AI-powered procurement within the first 10 weeks. And these don't require integrations to implement and allow us to really understand the business in question. To allow, then from that, we're able to align implementation of the full platform to where the most value can be delivered quickly. Unfortunately, we haven't got time to demo the platform in this session, but please do feel free to reach out to us and we can set up a meeting to go out through these in more detail. So I know this slide is a bit busy and quite complicated, but this is because our AI is very complex in the way it works. But I'll give it a go to try and simplify this in understandable language. So unlike traditional rules-based systems, 7bridges provides a system that optimizes to your business goals. So for example, cost, performance, or even environmental impact, whether overall or for a specific customer or even product. And doing that within the constraints that you set and are set by your customers. This means that you're not having to update rules each month when fuel surcharges increase, or after annual carrier prices are pushed up. Our AI, Leo, makes decisions in the context of external factors that may be impacting logistics. So for example, transport availability or world events. Internal factors that may impact supply, for example, stock level and order forecasts, and data specific to the order. For example, when it's due, its weights and dimensions, and actually the items that have been ordered. Leo then optimizes decisions such as where should stock actually be distributed from across the fulfillment network? Where should the order be dispatched from, whether that's drop shipped from the manufacturer or supplier, or even shipped from store, of which there could be multiple warehouses to throw into that equation. And it does that in the context of the full cost to deliver, i.e. consolidation opportunities, cost of storage, handling, and transportation. And then finally, it looks at what transport provider should be used and which service in the context of their real-time performance, which we see across all of our customers. Fundamentally, our AI is processing all the possible choices that you can make in placing and moving products around your network, from the supplier right through to the end customer. And it, as Corey alluded to earlier, it's something that is impossible for humans to compute just in the sheer amount of choice and data to run through. But the decisions aren't just informed by your data. We're also considering anonymized data from other shipments that are being processed through our platform, such that as a customer of 7bridges, you benefit from the power of the collective. And fundamental to our platform is the unification of data. And this is a trend that seems to be an overarching trend and need from our customers. And this is because many of them operate with multiple ERP systems, 3PLs, and carriers. And the consequence of this is that it creates a very disparate, siloed data source. So 7bridges is designed to be added to your existing infrastructure in order to really supercharge your logistics by utilizing your data and assets more effectively, rather than trying to replace systems. We plug into your ERPs, transport management systems, and e-commerce platforms, and then take responsibility for integrating downstream into your logistics network, including transportation providers. Not only does this remove the onus on your IT team to build and maintain these connections, but it also means we can harmonize and centralize all of your logistics data. Our AI then acts as an orchestrating layer, receiving sales and transfer orders from your ERP, making decisions as described in the previous slide, and then writing that information back into your ERP as a record. For those of you who are currently an Intex customer, we currently have an existing integration with Intex. And so this means that implementation with 7bridges could be as fast as 2 weeks. It also means that with your permission, we can easily obtain your order information and use that to estimate the potential savings that we can deliver to your business. So if you're interested in exploring this, please do reach out to myself or Corey or through your Intex account manager, and we can set up a meeting to discuss that in more detail. So Corey, what value do our customers get from all of this?
Sure, thanks, Simon. By unifying data through 7bridges and using AI technology to recommend how to fulfill orders and manage your logistics ecosystem, our customers gain revenue growth, higher profits, and a 5 times return on their investment on average by using the AI tech to digitally transform their end-to-end logistics. We tend to see a 5% revenue uplift through the We tend to see a 5% revenue uplift through their e-com channels because 7bridges helps to capture up to 3 times more customer spend. We're able to provide that simple white label tracking and returns offer that provides customer peace of mind while providing additional marketing and sales opportunity, and fundamentally providing more delivery options. But further than just revenue growth, we're seeing 50% reduction in time being spent on manual menial tasks. By being on a single platform for all of the logistics activities, you no longer have to bounce between systems and reporting portals. We've reduced that burden on your IT team and have integrated all those carriers on your behalf. And further, as through the modules that Simon's been able to highlight, really some automation of previously manual tasks, things like document creation and auditing of those invoices. Net, there's generally a 30% reduction in direct logistics spend. So using Leo to make decisions, you can explore cost savings by shipping directly to your consumers or procuring cheaper rates, dispatching from optimum distribution centers, or the consolidation of shipments. And finally, by using 7bridges, you're starting to build in a logistics operation that can truly handle the unforeseeable shocks, including more fulfillment options like drop shipping and ship from store where appropriate that we've covered in this session, and to automatically react to those shocks, for example, distributing stock across the network and only selecting those operational carriers, back to Simon's previous story around DPD and their inability to fulfill on-road transport post-Brexit. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. So I'll pass it back to Tobias to open up for questions answered. I hope you've all enjoyed today's session. Tobias, back to you.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for the interesting session, Corey, and also Simon. I would like to get now into the Q&A session, and I already received some questions from the chat. And the first one would be, you mentioned that 7bridges AI is not rules driven. Why is that, and what does this mean?
I'm happy to take this one. It's a good question and one that we get asked quite a lot by prospects and by our customers. And what I like to do is give an analogy, which I'll come on to, but essentially just to give you some context. Rules tell you what you have to do in a given situation, and they're a very brittle way of operating your logistics because they quickly become outdated. So for example, if you bring on a new provider, or if your shipment volumes or profile change, or if you have price increases, and we all know that on an annual basis, providers put up their prices. So if they do become outdated, then this results in suboptimal decisions being made by the rules that are currently in place. And so in order to mitigate this, you end up in a situation where you constantly have to review and maintain the rules that are in place. And this obviously is a massive time drain for your organization and for your tech team. It's much better to work with constraints, which is how 7bridges tackles the decision process. These tell you what you can't do and then leaves the space to optimize within what's possible. So as this optimization is aligned to the business goals, so for example, performance or cost, then an optimal decision will be made out of the possibilities that remain. So therefore, if prices change for a provider, for example, you just need to update these in the 7bridges platform, which happens automatically because we have those integrations with providers. And then that provider will likely be lower down in the selection choice. And this is opposed to you having to update every single rule that previously drove the selection of that now suboptimal provider. So the analogy that I like to use is just to help you understand this in a way that you can that is perhaps more tangible. Is if you imagine you are cooking for dinner, cooking something for dinner for 6 p.m. Now, my cooking skills aren't great, so for me it'd be beans on toast. I find that I don't have a can of beans at home. So a rule in this situation would be that if I have no beans in the house, then I leave for the shop as soon as I can and go to my local supermarket, so Tesco's, to buy Tesco's baked beans because they happen to be the cheapest in general. However, what this results in is me arriving in the shop at a time when all the school kids are there, and that just puts me in a bad mood. I also then miss out on the opportunity to buy premium Heinz baked beans, which happen to be on offer and available for a cheaper price than the Tesco's own brand. So a constraint in the situation would be if I don't have beans in the house, then go out to buy beans and making sure that I'm home by 5:45, such that I can cook dinner in time for 6 p.m. And that means I'm minimizing or optimizing for my mood, and also spending the least amount of money on beans. And that constraint of spending the least amount of money on beans means it gives me much more flexibility to optimize kind of the decisions that I take in order to result in the outcome of cooking dinner and in a cost-effective way, and results in much better outcomes than if I had tried to drive that process through rules. I hope that's a good explanation of rules versus constraints and how we operate with those.
Okay, then thank you very much for the first answer. I got a second one. In your experience so far, what is stopping organizations from implementing AI into their logistics setup?
Sure, I'm happy to take that. Having sat in front of a number of our now number of folks that are evaluating the platform, it's for many, it's really just not knowing where to start. They might have a feeling, or they've been looking at their cost of transport data for the past year, or they have some in-year cost savings that they need to achieve, but they just don't know where that's going to come from. Add on top of that, so one, people don't necessarily know where the problem may lie, or what the opportunity may look like. And the second, anytime you talk about AI or artificial intelligence, I think it creates a feeling on the side of an organization that says this is a giant IT transformation project that we're going to have to go and uncover. And we don't have the time or resource or dedicated internal teams to be able to start to map our supply chain data, or to be able to do the integrations that are required to make a system like 7bridges truly work. And I think that's the biggest myth that we have to help organizations get over in the very first few meetings that we'll have. The thing about 7bridges is from an integration perspective, we're already integrated into a gigantic number of ERPs and carriers at the same time. We don't want to put that onus onto an organization's existing IT team to try to manage. That's really our specialty. That's where we're able to provide a significant amount of value. And it's not a 6-month project, as Simon mentioned, for folks that are on the Intex platform. That integration already exists, and this is something we could be moving towards in 2 weeks or less, even to at least get the ball rolling. And the other is that AI has this connotation around it that it's an unknown, or we don't know the kind of results that we can see. So our customer solutions team is dedicated to each and every one of our clients to really understand what business goal are we trying to go after on behalf of our clients? What's important to them? What are the series of data streams that we need to consider, and how are we best to get to those? So there's a lot of hand-holding in the process. There's a lot of exploration, and there's some workshops that we would put together with each and every client to get on the path to moving through using AI in their supply chain.
Okay, thank you for this answer. I think I get one last question. That would be, aside from dealing with the need to offer delivery or save costs, what are companies coming to 7bridges for?
Sure. I can take that, and Simon, feel free to jump in with your experience with some of the other clients that we've got on the go as well. Don't mean to lay this up as yet another webinar, but one of the most powerful things that AI is able to do is to assist in that procurement process. So we touched a bit on that in terms of being able to make sure that you get, that you're out there accessing multi-carrier strategy, and that you're able to get rates that make sense for your business. But the real power of having an AI built, and what we would do is by creating a digital twin, is to really play back those rates that you're offered in the initial go when you go through your procurement process into our AI in an offline environment, to really optimize what those rates would do reflective in a live environment. And then to go even further. So we never say take the first offer. We're able to synthesize and harmonize that data so that you're able to be supported in future procurement exercises, in ongoing procurement exercises. So using AI as part of that procurement process becomes a really, really important thing. And we do happen to have a webinar coming up hosted by both Simon on the call today and our CEO, Phil Ashton, on October 14th, for those who might be curious about the role that AI plays in working through that procurement process. But Simon, other areas that you've seen some folks come to?
Yeah, absolutely. So one major theme coming off the back of COVID and seeing the impact of the shortage of HGV drivers across Europe is resilience in the supply chain. And a lot of our customers and in particular COOs, supply chain directors, CFOs are really wanting to discuss how do they make their supply chain more resilient and therefore minimize any revenue losses as a result of stock out situations or not getting supply in. And as we mentioned in the webinar, but just to highlight it again, there are strategic ways of thinking about this and tactical ways. So strategic ways looking at how you're fulfilling items and increasing the number of fulfillment strategies that you can deploy, such as drop shipping from manufacturer, ship from store where you have a series of store, or even shipping from third-party suppliers, so your maybe wholesaler network. And then there are tactical steps you can take to increase the number of providers that you have the ability to use, such that if there's one provider that's experiencing disruption, you can quickly switch to another provider. Now, obviously, in order to do that, you need the ability to quickly switch processes and dynamically react to what's happening in the environment, which is really the power of the 7bridges platform and the AI that we deploy. So resilience is a key trend in this, and I think businesses are thinking about how to change what was a black swan event, so COVID, and accept that these supply chain shocks are always going to happen, so build it more into a business as usual process.
Okay, thank you very much for the interesting presentation. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Corey. Ja, an der Stelle auch nochmal ein herzliches Dank an alle Teilnehmer der Session. Hat uns sehr gefreut, dass ihr dabei wart. Wichtig zu erwähnen wäre an der Stelle noch, dass ihr die Aufzeichnung der Live-Session in Kürze auf unserer virtuellen Messeoberfläche nochmal als Video on Demand finden könnt. Und genauso wie auch die Präsentation, die werdet ihr im Download-Bereich, also auf dem Snackautomaten nochmal finden. Ja, an der Stelle, wie gesagt, nochmal herzlichen Dank und ich würde hier jetzt die Präsentation beenden. Thank you.